is like a time warp. I haven't been here in the longest time. This is so cool. This feels amazing.
It's unbelievable. You look around and you see that logo and it just brings back so many memories. If you're a race fan and wanted to be in the middle of the racing world, this is where you turn.
Everyone looks to Connor as being this generational talent.
He's the miss that F1 had. That's the cycle of racing. The rules change.
But can you teach an old dog new tricks?
I don't know that you can teach an old dog if he doesn't want to learn. Can anybody beat him?
Yeah, of course. He's just phenomenal. But is he beatable? Absolutely. I wanted to be like a serious journalist, right? Now I'm just known for saying, if you qualify on pole, everyone else starts behind. Hello and welcome to Speed with Harvick and Buxton.
Let's talk racing.
Welcome to Speed with Harvick and Buxton, fueled by Poet.
Let's talk some racing, Will.
Let's do it, my friend. This feels amazing.
It's unbelievable. You look around and you see that logo and it just brings back so many memories. It's exciting, all in one, and it brings back old memories.
You talk about memories. What I love is we're doing it in Charlotte,
yes.
Right? In the same building, the same studio that I last came to 14 years ago. And they've recreated it perfectly. Like it's such a step back, sort of down memory lane for me of where I started my TV career on Speed all those years ago. And actually, we're just seeing now, like this was the last time that I broadcast from these studios, which is it's just amazing. I'm so honored to be bringing this back, and I know you have happy memories of Speed.
Well, I was a race fan. And, you know, I got to be on Speed when you were coming up through the ranks, and all the things that you got to be a part of all lived on this show. Yeah. And if you're a race fan and wanted to be in the middle of the racing world, this is where you turned, was to Speed. So pretty epic to see all this come full circle.
We are very grateful to be bringing the Speed name back. We're truly, and I speak for both of us with this, honored, and we hope to do the Speed legacy proud. And of course, folks, this show is all about you. As Speed always was back in the day, we want you to get your questions into us, your thoughts, your opinions, whatever it is. Contact us on social. And we're going to get down to talking some racing. And we might as well start with the first segment of the first show, which pays homage back to Wind Tunnel, Dave Desfain. Let's go full old school with what will be our regular show opener. It's Hot Topics, where we're going to fly through everything that happened in the world of racing over the past 7 days. And we start, of course, with NASCAR last night in Atlanta. And Tyler Reddick, a fellow Californian boy like yourself, Kevin, became the first driver in a decade and a half to win the opening 2 races of a Cup season, with victory, as we said, at Echo Park Speedway, Atlanta, after a race which saw Michael Jordan's 2311 squad again at the forefront for the majority of the race. Could have been Bubba Wallace's day, possibly should have been Bubba Wallace's day. But again, it was Reddick who came through this week in overtime to snatch the win. And it's not just Reddick who's the story here, it's his team, because after the first 2 races, 2311 sits first and second in the standings, a team owned by one of the greatest athletes in the history of the world, Michael Jordan, who, to make the story even crazier, spent the off-season in legal battles over a charter with NASCAR. Kevin, what a start to the season.
It has been, and I think when you look at 2311 and the results that are expected out of them, we almost gave them a hall pass last year for everything that they had going on outside of racing. But the way that they have started this season, it makes you think that they are going to be contenders for the whole year with the expectations that we put, especially on Tyler Reddick. We expect him to be a championship contender. But with Michael Jordan at the racetrack, doing all the things that he has to do as a team owner and being present, takes it to a new level. And we always talk about stars and the way that we need stars. And Michael Jordan can help his drivers become stars and do things that all the other drivers can't. So it's a pretty unique situation, but they're on a roll right now.
Well, Kevin, you talk about potential champions, and over in Formula One, preseason testing schedule has concluded, and the testing world champions, whatever that's worth, Our Ferrari, quickest of the pack over a lap, lightning off the lights with their race starts, and they've got the whole sport stunned with their revolutionary new rear wing, which actually provides lift on the straights. Incredibly smart, crucially very difficult to imitate, but their championship success is not a foregone conclusion. Mercedes and their engine partner teams like McLaren look quick and apparently haven't even driven their full race spec engine in anger. Red Bull and their new Ford engine also look like they're in the mix. And what, you may ask, of Aston Martin? Now they have the legendary Adrian Newey designing their cars. A total nightmare. A Honda engine that doesn't really work and a mountain to climb.
Well, here's what I love about F1 and the preseason testing. The cat and mouse games have begun.
Yeah.
And soon they're going to end because you're going to have to put the cars on the racetrack and you're going to have to show your hand. But you look at the innovation from the rear wing at Ferrari. But that's great. All I've heard about all offseason from a casual fan standpoint is Mercedes and compression on their engine. And so, you have Ferrari come to the test and everything that they've got going on with their car. But I love the fact that it's back in the driver's hands with the wings and the charging of the batteries and everything that the driver's control of. That's a lot inside that cockpit. But soon the soap opera will end. And we will have to race, which is what we all want to see.
Formula One's always a soap opera.
Well, that's part of what's made it intriguing, though.
MotoGP has concluded its preseason testing program in Thailand, with Marco Bezzecchi setting a new track record. It was an Aprilia 1-2 with Agura next up for Trackhouse. Yes, that same Trackhouse shaking up the NASCAR world. And Marc Marquez was third on the Ducati. Now, it's a big year for MotoGP with Liberty Media's purchase of the sport and new regulations set to hit in 2027. But already there's controversy after the popular Phillip Island track lost its place on the calendar for next year, something we'll be talking about in greater length later on.
Well, let's not forget, this is a business. Liberty's not scared. And I know that it's one of MotoGP's most prestigious races, but they are not scared to shake things up. And that's a balance. We'll see how that goes for them.
Well, the last testing report, I promise, because come next week we will actually have racing to talk about, took place for IndyCar Championship, very close to my heart, obviously. And it was in Phoenix. Now, Alexander Rossi topped that test. And I think, personally, ECR are looking really, really good for the season. It is a season which begins this coming weekend on the streets of St. Pete. 3 new tracks on the calendar, including the Freedom 250 in Washington, D.C. And frankly, I cannot wait for that.
Well, when you look at D.C., I mean, that has to be one of the premier spots that you could possibly put together. But I know we're going to St. Pete first, but this oval with NASCAR, you have the DC race, you have the oval race, and anytime that you can have the president of the United States backing your race and the things that you do, that's a big deal. No matter what side of the what side of the political aisle you sit on.
It's a huge deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The entry list for the 24 Hours of Le Mans has been finalized with a full grid of 62 cars. But after the withdrawal of Porsche, a slightly depleted hypercar entry of 18 cars down from 21, but an increase in LMP2 entries. Formula E, meanwhile, looks set to increase its calendar for the 26-27 season with a provisional calendar expected in March and set to include up to 19 rounds, including a second venue in the United States to add to the Miami Autodrome. And finally, news out of Super Formula in Japan with the announcement that Formula 2 hotshot Roman Stanek will drive for Kondo Racing alongside his former F2 rival Luke Browning, bolstering the field to 24 cars, the most seen in the championship for a quarter of a century. And that is your news.
Well, there's a lot of news in the racing world at this time of year. There's a lot of hype. We just lived through the biggest hype that you can possibly live through and on the NASCAR side of the world. So it's fun to see all these other series start to get their season started, and I can't wait to follow as many as possible.
It's going to be a great season. Let us start, though, Kevin, with our second segment, which normally is going to be our kind of hot take on what is going on in the racing world at the moment. But for our first show, we thought that we would just go deep on racing in general and focus on 3 championships that we love: NASCAR, Formula One, and IndyCar. We live in a world where everyone wants to criticize everything. Everyone knows what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and I'm not denying there's room for improvement in the world of motorsports, but let me tell you what I'm seeing. I just went to my first Daytona 500, and I mean, you saw. It was electric. I had the best time. But the thing about NASCAR that I think I'm most impressed with is they seem to have remembered who they are, right? Their marketing video earlier this season, it was a giant punch in the face to the Formula One comparisons, and reminded fans, I think, of their uniquely American roots. They still got work to do, obviously, to reclaim levels of popularity from back when you raced. But got to tell you, I'm extremely excited about drivers, in particular like SVG, who I will probably glaze every week on this show, Connor Zilic, and all this excitement around the 2311 team. Then I look over at Formula One, and everyone wants to call it an overnight success, but I know from firsthand experience, yes, it was anything but. It took a while. They've methodically marketed this series into the global powerhouse that it is today. And drivers like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, they're bona fide global superstars. They released the highest grossing racing film of all time last summer. Drive to Survive, one of the most watched reality shows of all time, going now into its, 8th season. But that said, it has major challenges ahead in America where they were seeing sizable growth. But moving behind the Apple paywall this season, it is a bold move. Will they continue to bring in the new fans they're hoping for? Which then brings us along neatly to IndyCar. In its first year with Fox, it had its most watched Indy 500 in 17 years. This offseason, the series added new drivers from new nations and a name in Mick Schumacher that resonates internationally. His father, of course, being one of the most recognized and celebrated in motor racing history, allowing it to restructure and add more international broadcast partners. In addition, they're returning to Phoenix and adding new races in Arlington, Markham, and the Freedom 250 in DC. In my opinion, competition has never been higher in the world of motorsports, and we have huge tailwinds behind us. It's one of the reasons I'm most excited that we're launching this show to cover it all. So those three aspects there of racing. Should we start with NASCAR, which appears, mate, to be in rude health?
Well, when you talk about recognizing who you are, and I think motorsports in general has gone away from horsepower. They've gone to this trying to make it more fair for everybody. Motorsports has always been about who could build the most badass car and the things that they can do on the racetrack. It's been loud, it's been in your face. And I think from a NASCAR standpoint, when you look at all the things that we've tried to do with playoffs. Well, we don't have playoffs in motorsports. That's for football, and that's for basketball and baseball and all those things. Just accept who we are. And I think NASCAR has really wrapped its arms around their Hell Yeah campaign and everything that they have going on with their marketing side. But just be who we are. That's what got us to the point of NASCAR being the most popular sport on the racing side in America. And I think as we continue to move forward and do that, people want to watch us who want to watch us. There's no reason to try to go out and make yourself something else for a small group of people that aren't going to be hardcore fans. We have a great fan base, and I love the fact that we've got back to trying to be who we are.
They consulted you on that, did they not?
Well, look, we've been through a lot of changes. Yeah. With the lawsuit, Steve Phelps going away, Steve O'Donnell coming back into being at the top of the NASCAR executive team. So, Steve's been around for a long time. Obviously, I have an opinion. Dale Jr. has an opinion. There's a lot of us that have opinions on what we do, and I think Mark Martin's big push to be traditional point system. We're back to the chase, and that traditional NASCAR style of racing is what our fans want to see, and they want it to be pure. I think we got a little too far away from the pure aspect of what NASCAR racing is, and I think we're back on a great road to get that corrected.
Are we already starting to see a shift in driver mindset, like after two races, when you look at the fact you've got 23-11 in the top two spots in the championship, the fact that stage points are key. Every point is key because it's about a championship table, not just taking that overall win.
I think you have to shift it. You look at Kyle Larson. We talk about Kyle Larson being fast. His mistake this weekend is a big dent in his points. And Tyler Reddick winning the first two races, you see the magnitude of winning a race and being there for every stage. But the way that our season has started right now with 2 super speedways basically in the first 2 weeks of the points paying season puts a lot of guys in a bad position. You look at the point standings and you better start counting points because if you're one of those guys that doesn't have the capabilities to go out and win races like Tyler Reddick has done or Kyle Larson is going to do, it's going to be a long road back to the top of that points pile. And if you're outside of that first 5 or 6 when the chase starts, you're not winning the championship. It's not possible.
You got great names, great personalities, really marketable assets as drivers in the championship. Not least young Connor Zilic, who arrives on a wave of publicity, mega season last year. He's so highly rated, around the motorsport world, whether it's Cup, whether it's open wheel, everyone looks to Connor as being this generational talent. Like, how good is he, and how good a season do you think he could have?
Well, to put it in perspective for our viewers that are outside of the NASCAR world, he's the miss that F1 had. He would have been as competitive as any American could have possibly ever been. Went through the karting system, had the capabilities and the knowledge and the speed and the smarts to be able to put it together, and he can adapt to anything that he drives. Thank God they missed, keeping him overseas. But I mean, I
still want to bring him to IndyCar. I still want him to do a 500.
Well, I'd love to see him, not only at the Indy 500, but it'd be great to see one of these guys jump out there and do both races in one weekend when we're together.
Oh yeah,
I think that would be so intriguing to have somebody run both races at Phoenix, and I like the fact that Zilic. He has the right sponsor with Red Bull. It's great for a platform like that from a marketing side. But I think that while he's young, let him do the IndyCar stuff and do the things that it takes because he's still learning. He's one of the guys that's at the bottom of the pile in the points system already, and a lot to learn as he goes down the path here through the season.
Let's move to IndyCar quickly. Preseason testing is done. I'm hugely excited for the season. Obviously, Alex Palou, 4-time champion now, going for his 5th. Only one driver in history has ever won 4 on the bounce. He could do that again this year. It's going to be a massive challenge for his rivals to get on his level.
Can anybody beat him?
Yeah, of course. And of course.
But I mean, realistically, are there expectations to beat him?
So here's the thing. I remember last year talking to the drivers before the season started, and they were all to a man like, yeah, he's beatable. And then you ask that same question this year, and they're a lot more measured in their responses because they see the level that he's at. And they know that target on his back isn't static. It will have increased over the winter. He will have moved himself to another level. So if you're aiming for where Palou was last year, you're going to miss. You got to aim higher. He's just phenomenal. It's his feel. It's his intelligence, his race brain. Everything about him is on such a high level. But is he beatable? Absolutely. Anyone in racing is beatable.
Who is it?
Who's
the top contender to beat Palou?
So I'm really excited to see what Lundgaard can do this year. First year last year with McLaren, and now he's got his feet under the table. He really needs to sort of step on, and I think he will. And McLaren, are looking to do in IndyCar what they did in Formula One, which is to have those incremental gains and year on year improve to the point where they can go out and win the championship, as they proved they could last year with Lando Norris. Having won back-to-back team titles in Formula One as well. I think willpower on a revenge tour of Andretti is going to be great to see. Scott McLaughlin is fired up at Penske. He's really taken on that team leadership
I like the Malukas
role.
kid.
I love Malukas as well, but let's not forget he's never even won an IndyCar race.
Right.
So putting the weight of, is he going to win the title in his first season with Penske? Like, that's the expectation, obviously, because you're racing for Penske.
Absolutely.
But that's a massive challenge. Like, absolutely huge.
So when you shift from IndyCar to F1, I like to call it a soap opera.
Yeah,
because it is, and when they kind of set themselves up for that when you do the Netflix stuff and everything. That's how it's presented, right?
Yeah.
That's the marketing trick that they've used, and it's obviously very popular around the world. Not as much here in the U.S. It's obviously on the right path, but where do you see this all falling when we drop the green flag in Australia?
It's the biggest technical regulation change that Formula One has had possibly in its history. Because it's not just an aerodynamic change for the cars, it's a completely different methodology of power delivery. It's now 50% battery, 50% internal combustion engine. And what that means is the drivers are having to completely relearn having to drive a car. Are they having to lift on the straight? Yeah. They are. They're having to brake way earlier in order to regen the power to give them the electric boost that they need in that car. So that was fascinating, seeing over the test in F1 how much that changed from test 1 to test 2. Seeing how some cars are, like the Mercedes, for example, like the factory Mercedes, wicked fast out of the corners, but braking way earlier than anybody else going into a corner. So how much of a disparity is that going to create in racing condition? The Ferrari, that car could qualify last, and I swear it would still be P1 by turn 1 because their launches are unreal. Great news if you're a fan of Cadillac, by the way, because Cadillac are running Ferrari engines in their first years in Formula One. And for the Haas F1 team as well, America's other Formula One team, they're running Ferrari engines. So that could be really, really great for them. But
tell me about the wing.
No one knows.
What about the wing? The wing is so intriguing.
This is fascinating. So second test, Ferrari turns up, right? Day 1, they've got this extra winglet on the rear crash structure, which is exhaust blown. Very, very smart. It's well within the regulations, but it's going to be almost impossible to
look at that.
So this is a secondary thing. The little winglet behind the exhaust is one thing, right? It gives them a little bit of extra downforce through the corners. And everyone's like, that's great, but it'll give them drag on the straights. Then day 2, they turn up with this wing. So under the regulations this year, DRS, the drag reduction system, has been eliminated, and you now have what's termed straight mode. So the front wing and the rear wing on most cars will open in order to reduce drag on the straights. What Ferrari have done is not just open the wing, they're flipping it. So that was it, the first test, they just opened it. The second test, it flips 180.
Wow.
So what that does, you're not just reducing drag, you're creating lift. But that secondary wing by the exhaust is then creating a little bit of downforce just to balance it out. Because you don't want to lift the rear tires off the ground, right? It's so smart. It's very, very difficult to replicate now for all of the other teams. And if Ferrari have found something, that could be the silver bullet. And listen, with a new set of regulations, one team's going to find something.
Right. So Lewis Hamilton back to victory lane?
I think everyone is hoping for that. I think Lewis is hoping for that. And also the way these cars drive. Right? Much looser at the rear, a little bit more snappy. We've seen cars four-wheel drifting around testing. That's a car that Lewis Hamilton loves.
So let me ask you this. Who wins first, Lewis Hamilton or Kyle Busch?
Well, I mean, with what
they're both on about the same losing streak.
I mean, with what we've seen out of Ferrari in testing, Lewis Hamilton, but it's testing, right? You don't know. Mercedes could turn up with an absolute box office engine.
Yeah.
You just don't. And you said it earlier, until we get to Australia, there's no telling.
So when we go to the first race for F1, do they let it all go at Mercedes? I mean, do you think they put everything they have out there, or are they still playing the politics of what might happen? And there's obviously a regulations meeting that's going to happen about the engines before we even get there, correct?
So basically there's a compression ratio which all teams have to abide by, and it seemed that Mercedes found a loophole that the compression ratio that you have cold could be increased when the engine's hot. So they're legal when it's static and potentially outside of it. But the original test wasn't supposed to be done when it was at high temperatures. There is a vote coming on whether to change that test. But with all the teams having been rather upset at what Mercedes are doing, there's now no guarantee they're actually going to vote for it.
Right.
Even if they do, it won't come in until halfway through the season.
Through the year.
So Mercedes and Mercedes-powered teams, they're fine till at least August. And who knows if the vote is even.
So do they unleash it at the first race?
Yeah, hell yeah.
All of it.
You unleash what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be immense.
Yes.
There is, of course, there's controversy already. Max Verstappen saying that he doesn't like these cars. Fernando Alonso saying that the team chef could drive these cars because you're having to drive them so much slower through the corners.
Well, his doesn't make very many laps, so I'd say that too.
Fernando's, I think he ran team ran 6 laps on the last day.
He's spending a lot of time with the chef, so.
Mate, the Honda engine, and last time we had a big regulation change like this, Honda got it completely wrong. Completely wrong. So big fear. I think big fear for Aston Martin, for Adrian Newey, for that whole team, for Fernando as well, because he's not getting any younger.
No.
This was supposed to be the year where they made that step forward. But even Flavio Briatore, coming out this week and saying that, here we go, fans only understand 20%. We have to explain what is really happening. For the driver, it has become a completely different game. That's what Flavio said in the week. Look, if the drivers are winning, they'll say they love the car. If they're not, they'll say they hate the car. Does it need a different style of driving? Yeah, it absolutely does. There's a lot of management. And as a driver, look, you're a racer. When you've got to be flicking buttons and switches and remembering what to push here, there, braking earlier than you'd like to on a straight, like, does that take the joy out of racing, or do you actually like the challenge of having to think through the way in which you drive? Would you rather be driving by instinct or by methodology?
And a lot of, from Fernando's standpoint, I mean, why would you want to change everything that you've been doing? And for a lot of these young guys, it's just something different, and they're going to learn it a lot faster. When I got to the end of my career, you learn things a lot slower, and you had to spend a lot more time doing them. And not to mention, you have other things going on in your life. As life evolves and you get older, you don't have as much time to spend to learn something new. So that's the cycle of racing. The rules change. I'm all for the rules changing because I think it keeps the competition fresh and fair, and creates that creativity for the teams to outthink the guy beside you. That's the part I loved in the garage. When I looked over and I knew that we beat the guys next to us because we did a better job of creating something that was better than theirs. So I'm intrigued.
But can you teach an old dog new tricks?
It's been really tough. We've seen that with our Gen 7 car that we now race on the Cup side, and you look at somebody like Kyle Busch. He has struggled with it. You know, for a driving style that has been created with the trucks and the O'Reilly Series cars and every Cup cars, you could drive them over the edge and save them. You're not saving these Cup cars. So you know, I don't know that you can teach an old dog new tricks if he doesn't want to learn. You can teach an old dog new tricks if he has enough time in there and the capacity to spend to learn something. But it is a difficult road in order to retrain yourself what your old habits are.
Even not the oldest dogs as well. You know, Max Verstappen is saying he'll walk away from Formula One if these cars don't suit him. If he doesn't enjoy the driving, he's going to step away from the sport.
If you're not enjoying it, there's no way you can motivate yourself. But F1 is going to be an interesting start to the season to see where we are. But you talk about the controversy in F1. We've got just as much controversy in MotoGP as well with everything that they've got going on with the schedule change, and put the riders in a very unique position with a street course. So where are we at here?
I'm very glad you asked. This is going to be a section of the show that we have going forward where one or both of us will be able to express an opinion on a given topic. And this week for us, it's one of the biggest stories of the off-season. When it was confirmed this week that MotoGP has a new home for the Australian Grand Prix, and it's Adelaide. Now, for those of us of a certain age, that name carries some weight because between 1985 and 1995, Adelaide hosted 11 Formula One Grand Prix. And I know what you're thinking. It can't be the same track, right? The Adelaide track used back then was a street track. And it'd be a fair assumption because MotoGP doesn't race on street tracks. The insane speeds of the bikes, nature of street circuit racing, closeness of the walls, the lack of runoff, it doesn't mix. And with the announcement of the new race proudly boasting that MotoGP will hit speeds in excess of 340 kilometers an hour, that's over 210 miles an hour, you'd of course be absolutely within your rights to assume they're not going to race on those same streets that hosted the likes of Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and Michael Schumacher. And yet, you'd be wrong. We'd all be wrong, because MotoGP intends to race on the very same street circuit in Adelaide, which once hosted Formula One. Now, to understand why this is happening, we need some context. Liberty Media, the company that completely revolutionized the global appeal of Formula One over the past decade, has recently completed its purchase of MotoGP. And unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know the effect Liberty's purchase had on F1. Explosive global growth, the Netflix effect, a Hollywood movie, an expanded calendar, record revenues. It has been a commercial masterclass, even if some critics argue the sport lost a little bit of its soul along the way. So when Liberty acquired MotoGP, reaction was split pretty neatly down the middle. Optimism that motorcycle racing could experience the same surge in popularity, and trepidation that in chasing that surge, the sport might sacrifice part of its identity. Now, this is the first major change announced under the new ownership, and it has been both seismic and controversial because the Australian Grand Prix isn't just changing locations or moving to the streets, it's leaving Phillip Island, and that matters. Phillip Island wasn't just another stop on the calendar. It was rough, it was raw, it was unrelenting, unforgiving, a majestic, undulating, flowing ribbon of asphalt by the sea. Such was its challenge, such was its tenure and importance, that its place on the calendar was considered unquestionable. Think Talladega for NASCAR, think Spa for F1, Laguna Seca for IndyCar. It's a piece of history whose challenge represented one of the defining hallmarks of the championship. Conquering it meant more than almost any other circuit. It was special. And until last week, it was sacrosanct. So why has it gone? Facilities, accessibility, investment. The new owners reportedly wanted upgrades that weren't forthcoming. A new bidder emerged, pressure was applied, and Phillip Island lost its race. And perhaps, just perhaps, a line was drawn. Because if the most beloved circuit on the calendar can be removed this quickly, then theoretically, no venue's safe. Liberty hasn't been shy in revolutionizing the F1 calendar either. Over the past decade, it's embraced the street circuit model. Saudi Arabia, Miami, Las Vegas, a new race this year in Madrid, a strategy refined by Formula E and perfected commercially in F1. If you want to develop a new market, don't make your fans travel to see the sport. Take the sport to the fans. Put it downtown. Make it unmissable. It's smart business. But here's the issue. Australia is not an emerging market for MotoGP. It already has one of the most passionate fan bases in the world, multiple world champion riders. It already had one of the greatest circuits in world motorsport. And there's something else Liberty may need to remember. MotoGP is not Formula One. What worked there might not work in MotoGP. Formula One also races on street circuits. MotoGP doesn't, and for good reason. Motorcycle racing is already one of the most dangerous disciplines in our sport. There's no cockpit, there's no survival cell, just millimeters of leather and a helmet between rider and the ultimate consequence. The announcement of the Adelaide race promises uncompromised safety, yes, but also speeds that surpass the top speed set by F1 in testing last week in Bahrain, and all on a street circuit. So personally, I struggle to see how those two realities comfortably coexist. And the imposition of a street race is a precedent that few fans of MotoGP have the stomach for. Is this a bold experiment? Is this a commercial statement of intent? Is this a warning to other circuits to modernize or move aside? And look, I worked for Liberty Media for almost a decade, and I'll be honest, at the start of my tenure there, I didn't understand some of their decisions. They seemed to fly in the face of what I understood the sport of Formula One to be. Some, but very few, were missteps. But most were bang on the money, even if those of us who'd been around the sport for a little while didn't fully understand them at the time. They were changes that absolutely needed to be made, and history has proven they knew precisely what they were doing. So is this a decision that will be proven right in time? Or is this a step too far too soon, in a championship they've only just purchased and are only just beginning to understand? One thing is for sure, the sport itself finds itself at a major crossroads. But is it taking the right direction?
Ultimately, it comes down, it's unsafe to start with, right? Like, as far as the forms of motor racing and everything that we see, you go out there and hurt somebody or kill them, on a street circuit with something that's a bold decision. Certainly, do they have a safety commission or anything?
Yeah,
Surely that would come down to a
commission.
decision like that.
I think ultimately it's down to the riders,
Yeah.
to decide if they want to take that risk or not. As you say, it's already a tremendously dangerous form of our sport. And those guys are rock stars.
Oh.
The risk that they take, the speeds that they ride. I have untold respect for MotoGP riders. But it's going to be down to them, isn't it?
It is.
They're the ones that take the decision to jump on that bike and go and race. And look, ultimately, they've said in the statement, the safety standards will be supreme. So I guess we have to wait and see what the ultimate layout.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it can't. They've said it will be the same as the F1 track, right? But it can't be exactly the same because the walls were too close even for F1 30 years ago.
Right.
So something will have to be different, and I can't see them going and racing. I can't see the riders getting on their bikes and going out to partake even in a practice session unless they arrive at that track, they walk around it and they say, yeah, you know what, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
But it's a huge moment for MotoGP because not only is it the first street race in championship history, but they're leaving this classic venue. And there's so much desire within the fan base of every racing championship that you stay at those classic tracks, right? Because they're part of the soul of the sport. what makes the sport special? You know, can you imagine not having the Daytona 500 or not racing at Talladega or like
Darlington?
Right. It's like it's unimaginable. And yet the very first thing that has happened is you take away this classic track.
And that's not something, I mean, we've seen Liberty challenge a lot of the classic tracks on the F1 schedule as well. So this isn't an unprecedented situation that they put themselves in.
No, like all of the new tracks that Formula One's had since Liberty took over have been street tracks, except for, and here's an irony, Qatar, which is actually a MotoGP track that you put Formula One cars
How ironic.
And ironically maybe doesn't create the greatest race because it's a MotoGP track, not an F1 track. But no, they've all been street races. But like just because it works in Formula One doesn't mean that same methodology works for MotoGP. And as I said, not in an area like Australia that already has that. I get it in a new emerging market.
Right.
The concept of take it to the fan rather than, if you build it, they will come. It's
risky.
It's bold.
Yeah.
Take nothing away. It's bold.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, look, Liberty have proven the doubters wrong time and time again.
Yes.
And just because if you've been established in a sport for a long time, you don't understand the decisions in the moment, doesn't mean that over time they won't be proved to be the right decisions. Because a decade later, you look at what Liberty did in the early years, and everyone's sort of going, doesn't need a theme tune, doesn't need a new logo, bring back grid girls. And it's like, you know what, all the things they decided early on, they were just the small things, but all the big decisions they made, they were proved to be absolutely dead right. But I think it's something for the fans, ultimately, to determine whether it's right or wrong. So let us know what you think. Contact the show via the social media channels, Speed on Fox, and let us know what you think about MotoGP's decision to leave Phillip Island and go racing on the streets of Adelaide. Right, next up, a segment of the show where your comments and your questions will be heard and will be answered. And in a throwback to the classic Dave Despain wind tunnel, yes, we have bobbleheads, and yes, we will send them to whoever comes up with the best question of the week.
Well, do we get approval over these bobbleheads? Because I'd like to flesh out some of the gray hairs.
Yeah,
and
mate.
things.
So apparently they're in production, but they will be with us. They will be with us soon, and they will be with you shortly after if you submit our favorite question of the week. Let's hear our first question.
Hi, I'm Alina Jarvis, and this is Tyler Jarvis. We're from Daytona Beach, Florida. Say something nice about Kyle Busch.
That's not a question, that's more an order.
Yeah, well, I will say something nice about Kyle Busch. He's one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. But
there's a but. She said say something nice.
Yeah, I did. I did say something nice. He's one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. I think you saw that again in the truck race this weekend at Atlanta. And I think that he's struggling in the Gen 7 car.
Okay, next question.
Hey, my name's Brad. I'm from Philly. I'm wondering what's the best tradition in NASCAR? Is it drinking?
Oh, that's a great question.
He probably likes to drink in. Taking your top off and drawing a smiley face on you.
Well, I would say that my favorite thing in NASCAR currently, if you want to go down the drinking path, is pulling into the tunnel at Darlington. It looks like you went back in time because there's blue tarps, tents, everything that you could imagine from what something would look like in the 1970s is right there in the infield at Darlington.
That's the best tradition, you reckon?
Well, that's the most relevant to his drinking question.
Fair dues.
Yeah.
Next question.
Hi, it's Sue from Melbourne, Australia. Will and Kevin, just wondering what you think Oscar Piastri's chances are this year in the Formula One.
Oh, hi, Sue. Long way from Melbourne, Australia to Daytona. Right. Yes, I think if the car's there, Oscar's got it. He fell off 3/4 of the way through the season. I think the pressure just got to him a little bit. But people forget he led 3/4 of the F1 championship last year. And for me was by far and away the better McLaren driver.
Absolutely.
By far and away.
100%. From just a casual fan, Oscar is definitely McLaren's best driver.
Yeah. So if they've got the car, it's an Oscar championship. Next question.
Hey, Kevin and Will, Nate from Tennessee here. And I was wondering, Will, we were both on Netflix. Who do you think was the bigger star? Was it you, Kevin?
Not me.
It definitely wasn't me. I don't know that I've ever been on Netflix. I guess I'm always for the racing guy, so I'm voting for Will.
Well, Nate's a funny guy intrinsically, so I'll hand it to Nate. I still find it
So
weird. I still find it weird. We've done 8 seasons of Drive to
So
Survive.
politically correct.
I wanted to be I wanted to be like a serious journalist, right? And ask the serious questions and break serious stories. And now I'm just known for saying, if you qualify on pole, everyone else starts behind you.
You're just part of the show. Oh, that's great.
Right. We've got questions from social media this week. The first one is from Tommy the Treat 000. What other tracks besides Phoenix and St. Pete could you see host an IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader in the future? I love that question. What would you go for, mate?
Well, you're learning quickly that I have an opinion on just about everything,
Yes, you do.
even if I don't know very much about it. And I told you this a couple weeks ago. One of my favorite races was always the Chicago 1.5 oval. I'd love to see just one of those Sam Hornish classic finishes at Chicago again on the same weekend with NASCAR. I think it's going to be great in Phoenix, but I'd love to see it at a place like Chicago.
You know what? I was so impressed with the pageantry and everything that the Daytona 500 has. I'd love to see IndyCar on the same schedule.
Yeah.
Kick off the season, doubleheader, NASCAR, IndyCar at Daytona. That'd be crazy. But I loved Atlanta last night. I'd love Talladega. I think Talladega would be great. I think, having Indy as the only super speedway of the year is brilliant for the 500 because it sets it apart. But people love that race because they love seeing Indy cars on super speedways.
Yeah,
So I'd love to get back to a couple of the 2.5
those
mile
races
tracks.
were just unbelievable. I mean, they were very similar to what we did at Atlanta this weekend. I know it puts the drivers in a unique spot, but you get to a place that's bumpy. The asphalt is worn out. Maybe it keeps the top speeds down from being every lap. Sure, qualifying will be fast, but that was always just one of my favorite races to watch because the finishes were always fantastic. Really, on all the 1.5s. Texas was the same way.
Apparently, we have 2 more questions coming in from social. The next question is from James Minor. Who are the top 5? Oh, man, that's a good one. Who are the top 5 racers of all time across any? Should we reduce this down to 4? Should we do a Mount Rushmore of greatest racers of all time?
No, it's already controversial enough.
Who would you like? So for me, if it's the top 5 racers of all time across any era car or racing series, they've got to be drivers who did everything.
Yeah.
You can't just have a specialist, which pretty much knocks out anyone from the last 20 years.
Yeah. So on my list, I had the Big E, Dale Earnhardt.
Yep.
Mario Andretti, Richard Petty, Michael Schumacher, and AJ Foyt. So AJ Foyt would be and Mario would be the only ones that fit that criteria.
So Foyt and Mario, so they both obviously Foyt won what was it 7 NASCAR races?
Yeah.
And he won the Daytona 500. Mario won the Daytona 500.
That's right.
So for me, Mario is
easy.
Tick. Mario's on Mount Rushmore straight away. Put him in any car, any track, any championship, competitive winner through and through. Same with AJ, I think. And so for me, Sterling Moss, exactly the same, but in the 1950s. You can put him in anything, anywhere, super competitive, like a born winner. Didn't win the title in F1, but was still regarded as one of, if not the finest driver of his generation. For me, Moss and Andretti are my 2 GOATs. They're head and shoulders above everyone.
Well, and I think that there's, when you talk about just the driving side of it, but the stardom that comes with who you are in your particular series, and it's hard to not say Schumacher when you look at F1. But
he started off in sports cars, right, and then moved to F1.
Yeah.
But famously was reluctant to go and race anything else. So does that limit our appreciation of him across platform and across championships because he only raced Formula One?
Well, I think when you go back to say we'd have to go back generations to figure this out, and I think in today's modern era, it's the Kyle Larson, Max Verstappen conversation, right. SVG,
or a Fernando Alonso who did obviously won Formula One World Championship, raced the Dakar, won Le Mans, came and gave the Indy 500 a go, and did pretty well.
Yeah,
I mean, didn't qualify one year, but then did really well and almost won it. On debut. Maybe Fernando has to be in that conversation. I mean, not so great now, but at his peak, maybe Fernando would get in that conversation. Maybe a Verstappen who is willing to give everything a go and may possibly walk away from Formula One at the peak of his abilities and go and race something else because he just loves racing. Went and did the 24 hours of the Nürburgring and won it on his first try.
It's the most interesting debate for global race fans to have, because everybody doesn't go back and race everything. There's very few SVGs that are going to go race rally cars. They're going to come race NASCAR. They're going to do,
Dare we put SVG on a Mount Rushmore?
No, you can't do that. He's still racing.
So you've got to have retired to be on.
I think you have to be. I think you have to be retired to be in this conversation.
Okay, so no one current.
Yeah.
No one. Okay.
I think until they're done, you don't really know, because it might be an easy decision instead of a debate.
I'd argue Scott Dixon.
Yeah.
Could be on the greatest of all time list. Again, adaptability, but also, he's won 21 races. Sorry, won races every season for 21 years. Like, you think about that, 21 years in succession of having won at least one race every single year.
And the door's open.
The
door's open for him to venture out into NASCAR.
And
Jimmy Johnson has opened that door wide open for him.
I
think it would be fantastic just to see. I mean, his sports car presence that he's had with his ability there. You look at a guy like Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah.
I know that he tried several different forms of racing, and I think in better cars in NASCAR, he wins more races than he did. So that's a debate for hours.
So I'm not sure we've got the 5 that James wanted us to get to, but it is. I mean, it's the unanswerable question.
It is,
isn't it? And it's the great debate which we will have forever within our sport. What was your favorite question? Who's getting the bobbleheads? I think mine was the best 5 drivers.
I think it has to be.
Yeah, right. Because it's such a great discussion.
It's the ultimate debate among race fans.
2 bobbleheads, because actually we've got a Kevin bobblehead and a Will bobblehead making their way to you just as soon as they're made and sent into the studios. We'll get them forwarded to you. I don't know how we get everyone's address. Maybe we DM you or something like that. So make sure your DMs are open so we can get your address. Right. We have determined what was the question of the week. But the biggest question of all, Kevin Harvick, who is the driver of the week?
Well, mine's Tyler Reddick. I don't know how you go against the guy that has just won the Daytona 500, won the next week to back that up, and just has a ton of momentum right now. Can he keep it? We'll find out. But right now he's got the momentum that he needs to be a championship contender and our points leader in NASCAR.
I'll tell you how you go against it.
Okay.
With the opinion of someone who has only really just started paying full attention to NASCAR. And I will argue, I'm going to argue Van Gisbergen. I'm a massive SVG fan anyway. And we were talking over the winter about it. Like, the second this guy figures out ovals to add to his street racing prowess, he's going to be the real deal, and he's going to be a real danger. And I think what we saw at Daytona until he got wrecked or got involved in the wreck, and then what we saw in Atlanta was a guy who has got certainly tracks of that nature figured out.
And you might have to pick him 2 weeks in a row since
I'm happy. I'm going to pick him every week.
Okay, that's fair.
It's going to be like a recurring joke.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pick SVG every single week. Like, he's got it figured out. You start 28th, fired his way up to fight in the top 3, gets wrecked by Larson, goes through the grass, somehow recovers, pulls it all together, starts making his way through again, wrecks on his own, goes through the grass, gets back, fires it up, finishes top 10. Could have finished top 3, could have even won the damn thing. Like, for me, that's an unbelievable drive for a driver who last year people were saying, he's good, but he doesn't really get ovals.
Yeah, and I think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, saying that he can only win on the road courses. But I think the thing that people don't realize about Shane, extremely high racing IQ. And very good at analyzing himself, very good at analyzing the car, and the maturity to go with it. I think that's the difference that a lot of people don't understand, is the fact that he is mature and very willing to critique himself and learn. But his racing IQ is through the roof.
Let's see what the fans think. Because you guys have been voting on social media for who you think was the driver of the week. Oh, and Reddit gets 70% of the vote.
That's okay. We'll give you a hall pass this time.
Cool.
Just because you're learning. So
interestingly, Hocevar had the most write-in votes, because we asked people, like, if it's not these two, who else would you pick?
He's turned everybody on their ear right now to pay attention to the things that he's saying and doing on the racetrack, and he is not apologetic for it one bit. And I love the fact that, and he's putting all these guys in a box right now because he's willing to take more risk and do things that are just right on the edge or over the edge. And I can see why people wrote him in.
Time for Next Lap, where we look ahead to what racing is coming our way over the next 7 days. And of course, we have something of a doubleheader in St. Petersburg, Florida. Truck Series. Kevin will be racing on the streets of St. Pete with a couple of, I think, fascinating additions.
Yes.
Mr. Dario Franchitti and, of course, our very own Mr. James Hinchcliffe.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the trucks on a street course for the first time. I think that in itself is going to be exciting, and I can't wait to hear what Dario and Hinch have to say about this style of racing and when the last time they drove an H pattern. I think that's a great question to me.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Can't wait for that. And of course, also at St. Pete is the opening round of 18 for the NTT IndyCar Series. Hugely excited for this season. So many questions. Of course, Alex Palou won it last year. Could have been Colton Herta's. Herta was rapid fast until a really slow pit stop caught him out. And with Will Power being in that car, Will Power, I think, has got more pole positions at that track than any other driver. He could be looking very, very dangerous. But it's a circuit that Scott McLaughlin goes well on. And you know, what I love about the opening race of an IndyCar season is you've got 25 guys going into this, and every one of them believes they're going to be champion this year.
And that's the great part about the preseason when you hear all the hype and all the things. But you never really know who's going to be that next contender. And I think with Palou and everything that he's been able to do over the past 4 years, 3 years for sure, it's always intriguing as to who's that next guy. Because when he came, I don't think anybody really expected him to do what he did when he was in a position of just starting to break through. But who's going to be that next guy to break through and make that change? And who, is it somebody like a Malukas, or is it Scotty that makes a comeback? And Will Power having that much motivation to just take it to the Penske cars is always scary.
Yeah, that's gonna be amazing. You guys are at COTA. A circuit and a city that I have spent an inordinate amount of time in. I love Austin, Texas. Great place for a race.
It's an unbelievable facility, and I think that the big question for us this weekend, we've seen the success that Tyler Reddick has had there. Christopher Bell won there last year, and we've seen SVG win on every road course that we've been to except there. And is that something with that particular track? Can Connor Zilic challenge on the road course and make it a track house duo of road course contenders? So a lot of questions, a lot of pressure on a lot of guys who are in a position to have to dig themselves out of a hole that may not be road race material to have a chance to win. So you could very well have yourself buried after 3 weeks into the season.
Has 2311 got a road course car?
Reddick has done really well on the road courses, and I think that Bubba's going to struggle on the road course. So I think just trying to figure out how to get a solid top 10 for him is probably the primary goal. And the way that these stages flip, guys like Bubba and some of these guys that are in a hole, you're going to see some of these guys try to capitalize on just grabbing those stage points.
Interesting. And of course, MotoGP has their season opener as well this coming weekend in Buriram in Thailand. And that will be a fascinating one given what went down in testing and looking towards this season. The bikes look mad this year. They look almost like drag bikes.
I can't believe all the aero devices. I never really followed MotoGP closely until Trackhouse got involved in it, and obviously we were doing this show. So I started going through things over the past couple weeks, and I love all the gadgets. I love the aero side of things. So you look at these bikes and just all the little pieces and parts that are put all over these bikes from an aero standpoint, and just watching the riders ride these bikes is just one of the most unbelievable things that you'll ever watch. And I got to watch it in person at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway one year. And if you ever get the chance to go watch these bikes and you have not seen one of these bikes in person, they are incredible.
Scary. Well, we are almost out of time, and that means we're heading into overtime. 2 laps, 2 opinions, and it's actually a wider look at the world of sport in general. Who has impressed Kevin? Who's impressed me these past 7 days? Do you want to start, or shall I?
I can start.
Go
I
for it,
think
mate.
I think right now this is kind of like cherry picking, right? With the Winter Olympics happening,
Yeah.
how can you not go with the U.S. hockey team?
Great story.
Winning. It's a great story. I mean, you look at the history of the U.S. hockey team, and then you look at who they had to play to get to the gold, or to get to the gold, and in the gold medal match. Anytime you can have a rivalry like that, I mean, and win that type of match in the Winter Olympics is quite an accomplishment.
For me, all my focus going into the Winter Olympics was on Lindsey Vonn, because she's just such a massive hero of mine. And all of the focus and the attention on Lindsey kind of took it away from Michaela Schifrin, who came through. She's had a comeback of her own, wins the gold in the slalom, after everything that she's been through, and coming back to win that. I think that was an incredible performance, just a brilliant job from her. And yeah, for me, that's the standout performance of the week.
That Lindsey Vonn injury, wow,
dude,
unbelievable.
Yeah, but like
game of inches.
But this is it. Like, she's a racer, right? And she went out and she just took too much out of that first apex.
Yeah.
And that was it. 2 inches to the left, and she brushes that gate, and she's on, and she's probably winning the gold.
And it won't be the last time you say that this week.
We're going to St. Pete. Someone takes 2 inches too much out of a corner, straight into the wall. Straight into the wall.
Been there, done that.
I'm hearing we have late breaking news from Bob Pockrass. Toyota Racing Development has signed Keelan Harvick. Oh, you knew this, to a long-term development deal. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's
to Keelan, of course.
Great for Keelan. I think that the Toyota system is a great system for him to be in. So exciting stuff.
Brilliant. What a great way to end the show, mate.
That's right.
A little bit of personal happy news. Wonderful stuff. My thanks to you, mate. Our thanks to you at home for watching. Don't forget, this is your show. This is about you, your opinions, your feelings, your questions. Speed is very much your home. We are delighted to be bringing it back. Thanks to our friends, of course, at Poet. Do join us every week, and not just once a week, but twice a week. Coming up on Wednesday, our next show, an interview with Dario Franchitti. We had a great chat not too long ago, actually, just a few moments ago, a few hours ago. We spoke to Dario, who, of course, is getting back behind the wheel in St. Pete this weekend. It's going to be wonderful to see him. My thanks to you, mate. Thanks to you at home. This has been Speed with Harvick and Buxton. We'll see you on the next show.